plus all the existing rail traffic and the reasonably foreseeable future rail traffic. Please also study who will pay the costs of our damages and to mitigate this harm. Thank you.
88, 89, 90. 88, you're at the microphone. Please state your name for the record.
Must be a lot of short people around here. I'm Barry Winger, Bellingham, Washington, and I was a senior environmental planner at the Washington State Department of Ecology for 26 years until I retired this March. And I spent a lot of that time on looking at big picture issues on impacts of really large projects like that. This project proposed. I should have worn red, but I didn't know about that. Anyway, I have just a couple of comments I want to make to the folks here. I'll be submitting a real long list of scoping comments soon. And basically, I would like to encourage you to look at the cumulative impact of all the coal facilities on the West Coast on vessel traffic and ballast water in particular. Those are two areas I actually have a lot of expertise in. With all those ships, when you start tracking where they're going to go, they all go up the West Coast, Pacific coast, at best the BC coast, up to one little teeny pinhole pass called Unimak Pass in the Aleutians. And then they go on the inside the Aleutians by the Bering Sea in Bristol Bay, thousands of miles or so out to the other side of the Aleutian Islands, and then they come down to all of Asia, China, Japan, everything. That's the same thing for the tar sand ships that are coming down from proposed Burnaby, quadrupling the number of tar sand shipper ships, with the ones coming from Kitimat, Prince Rupert. They all go to the same place. Turns out the impacts from these vessels can be devastating to all the Pacific Northwest salmon, because all the salmon, after they spawn, even all the way down the Columbia River and further south, all the smolts go up to the Gulf of Alaska. The research is in, 10 billion smolts a year go there. If there's a collision between these gigantic coal ships and these tar sand ships in that area or anywhere along the way, which is very likely that kind of traffic being increased up to about 2,500 ships a year, it's going to be devastating. So please track where the vessels go. And the herring, the territorial herring, which are supposed to go off the coast of Vancouver Island, and see what the impacts will be from spills. Thank you.
90, 91, and 92. 90, you're at the microphone. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Elliott. I'm the chairman of the Washington State Legislative Board, Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen. Our union was founded in 1863 and is the oldest labor union in the country. Next year we celebrate our 150th anniversary. Our Washington State Legislative Board was founded in 1904 and is the oldest board of its kind in the country. My board's primary responsibilities are workplace safety, health, and education. On behalf of over 700 locomotive engineers and trainmen across the great state of Washington, we ask that the scoping for the Gateway Pacific Terminal be limited to a localized study. Overly broad scoping is damaging to both interstate commerce, opportunities, and to jobs. Rail is a vital resource, and too broad of a scoping study could undermine our ability to compete in an increasingly competitive world market. We compete with Canada, Mexico, and Mexico, and the Panama Canal for vital port commerce. We must avoid hamstringing U.S. industry with onerous regulations and unrealistic requirements. The key is to keep things reasonable. Demonizing coal and demonizing our trains will not lower the greenhouse emissions count by even one single point. Developing countries are still going to buy coal products for their power plants. They will simply buy it from other, less efficient sources. We can help workers in America and assist countries overseas by supporting responsible projects like the Gateway Pacific Terminal project. Our railroad infrastructure isn't going to collapse. We all need to take notice to the reality of our own economic plight, the reality that developing countries are going to use coal products, and the reality we can be part of a responsible, state-of-the-art export facility right here in Washington State. I respectfully request the environmental impact study be focused on the export facility in question and the rail study focus on Whatcom County. Thank you very much.
asthmatic attacks, and when I came to Bellingham, I no longer do. My son, however, I live about a mile from the tracks, and I'm concerned that I may end up getting asthma as a result. My son currently does have asthma attacks occasionally and has had to go to the emergency a few times. That brings up two issues. One is that he lives a quarter mile from the tracks, and I'm concerned about the coal dust, the diesel particulate matter that will come from the engines, and the effects on his lungs, and also the emergency vehicles that might need in order to get to the hospital to save his life. The other thing I want you to study the effects of the diesel particulate matter and the coal dust and detritus on the health of human beings. The other reason I'm here, and the reason why I really want to stay here, is because of the beautiful natural environment and the wonderful natural environment. I'm concerned about the waterways all along the railroad tracks and the effects on the wildlife and vegetation, the wetlands, the rivers, Puget Sound, and particularly Cherry Point, where the terminal is proposed to be built. My understanding is that in Sawasan, there's a 2-mile area that is a dead zone there as a result of the coal terminal there. And my concern that the herring that live in the Cherry Point Marine Preserve right there will be destroyed as a result of this coal terminal. And of course, we know that the salmon depend upon them for their food, and of course the orcas depend upon the salmon. We're all connected.
91. And then on deck we have 91 and 92.
Hi, my name is Amy Pashoff. I live out at Gooseberry Point, Whatcom County. I have 3 points I'd like to share, among many others I can't share. My concern is the cumulative effect of the pollution levels of the BP refinery, the aluminum smelter Alcoa, and the proposed coal terminal on the local inhabitants and the environment. The geographical proximity of these 3 entities needs to be considered. The cumulative effect of having these 3 large polluting industries within just a few miles of each other has to be addressed together when considering building the largest coal terminal in the United States in the same area. Anything short of this would misrepresent the true impact of the environment on that proposed coal terminal would create. Each one of these industries may be just below the critical level for a known adverse health impact by itself, but the combined impact of all 3 of them may significantly endanger human and animal health, as well as the natural environment, soil, water, food resources, etc. When there are more than 2 entities, a system ceases to behave in a classical way and becomes known as a nonlinear or chaotic, meaning that small effects can magnify greatly throughout in a chaotic fashion. A linear system implies that small causes produce small effects. By contrast, a nonlinear system implies that small causes potentially produce large and unpredictable effects. Consider, for instance, the cumulative effects of the deposits of heavy elements and other toxins coming from all 3 sources on both the human population and the entire ecosystem. Pollutants travel great distances on wind and groundwater, sea currents, etc., and they build up in living systems. What are the long-term effects as well as the short-term risks and impacts? The cumulative effect of exponential buildup and accretion of toxicity in various environmental systems must be taken into consideration when estimating the environmental impact. How will these long-term cumulative effects be measured? For example, how will the deposit of heavy metals affect a yet unborn baby? Will there be an increase of toxicity levels in the food chain? I urge you to study this. Thank you. Sorry I didn't get to the others.
Okay, 91, 92, and 93. 91, you're at the microphone. 92 and 93, you're at the desk. Please state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Lori Stein. I live with my husband in Bellingham. I'm a retired public school teacher. If we really wanted to create thousands of permanent jobs that enhance our community and economy, we could develop our waterfront into a conference center with a first-class hotel, live theater, restaurants, and shops. But that will not happen. This whole scoping process is a rigged game based on the assumption that the Gateway Pacific Terminal and increased coal trains will happen. And all we need to do is negotiate compensation for the endless list of negative impacts. This 4-hour meeting for a city of 80,000, sadly, is a futile exercise that deceptively gives the illusion that our community has some voice in a done deal. There is no compensation for the price to be paid for the immense corporate profit projected at our expense, and of all future generations to follow, I might add. Have we learned nothing from the recent financial crisis? Large corporations, to paraphrase Jon Stewart, privatize their profits and find a way to socialize their losses. Big money wins every time. This scoping process, with all due respect, is a pretense of interest in public opinion. Projected corporate profit trumps whatever negative impacts we enumerate from local to global. Let's not forget that the one and only goal of this entire Gateway Pacific enterprise is massive corporate profit at any price.
You may wave your hands, please, no applause. Thank you. Number 92, 93, and 94. 92, you're at the microphone. Please state your name for the record.
Yes, John Neighbor, Bellingham, Washington. Well, I've been an environmental activist for 30 years or more, and I can say I am amazed and disgusted that in 2012 a project such as this is even being considered at all. I'm old enough to recall the first Earth Day in April 1970, and many portending ideas were projected into our future on that day and that year, beginning in that year. And little did I know that we would still be petrochemically dependent via the corporations who profit enormously from those endeavors. Global warming is real. You'll notice both political candidates for president are not even talking about it anymore, including Barack Obama, who seems to think clean coal is some sort of an idea. There's no clean coal, there never has been, there never will be. We are at a crisis level on a planetary scale due to global warming. We need to be at 350 parts per billion of carbon dioxide in order for human civilization, let alone all other plant and animal life on the planet, to continue to exist. As of 2009, we were at 392 parts per billion of CO2 worldwide on an average. We are now probably approaching something considerably higher than that. I was listening to Noam Chomsky interview yesterday on Democracy Now!, and he clearly stated that now it is projected that instead of the 50-year timeline of coming up with non-polluting, non-CO2 emission-oriented industries, now the deadline is 2020, and in fact, runaway climate is currently going on. And there's so many other issues I would like to talk about. Okay, well, we need to, this project should not go on. It will provide 200 permanent jobs or less. Okay, thank you so much.
I really appreciate how wonderful everyone's been about using their hands. I need to ask the few that are applauding, we're almost done, we're in the tail end, so please just continue to respect the rules. When we're done, if there's still any time, I can let him finish what he was saying, but please, let's just continue to finish the rules until we get done here. 93? Yes. 93, 94, and 95. 93, you're at the microphone. 94 and 95, you're on deck.
My name is Christy Allen, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. We appreciate it. I live in Bellingham. I live, my property abuts the railroad tracks, and I have I'm an owner of a business in Burlington, and both are impacted by the train. The diesel particulate matter is of great concern to me, as well as I don't know if it would be an impact, but I'm an avid gardener and we eat a lot of organic food out of our garden, and having the trains go by, I'm concerned with how that might impact my organic garden and the foods we eat as a way of being healthy. Another concern of mine is at my business already with the increased train traffic. I've had my business in the same location for over 10 years, and just in the last year, almost weekly now, there's somebody who's late. I'm a massage therapist, so I have an hour to give a massage, and then I have a short period of time to change clients. And so when a person is 10 minutes late, it impacts their massage as well as my business. I see when people do come in late from the train traffic that they are very stressed, that they're anxious about being late because they're paying for a full hour and yet they're not getting a full hour. So I have concern not only for their health and for the stress that will be increased as this train traffic increases, and the length of these trains is quite a bit longer than most trains that go by. And so having to sit and the stress level that comes up and the health impact of that, I have a concern of that, as well as on my business, I have a fear that people will stop crossing the tracks to come to my office. So I want you to look at that sort of thing. Another thing is the impact on domestic animals. We recently had a worker at our house whose animal was killed by the railroad, and it was a very significant part of his life and created a lot of stress and grief in his life because of this. And I'm concerned over the domestic animals of all the people that live along the tracks. And so thank you.
Last call for 94. Okay, 95, 96, and 97. 96, 95, you're at the microphone. 96 and 97, you're at the desk.
Patrick Alessi, Birch Bay. Listen carefully because I don't know what I'm going to say, or which way I'm going to say it. There's so many things here. Basically, don't be railroaded. Okay. Several years ago, there were hearings dealing with the same piece of property. Chicago Bridge and Iron wanted to build stuff there. People would get up and say, we need this, we need this, we need to have jobs for our kids. And I'd get up and say, I don't know about the rest of you people, but I'm telling my kids to get a good education, be ready to travel, because at that time, if you had talent, you had to travel to get to use it. Paradigms shift. Let me tell you what's happening today. Jobs are seeking out people where they live. People are moving where they want to live, they like it, and then they try to figure out how to get the jobs there. You will lose people. You will lose people from Bellingham and this area if this project comes in, because they'll just move to where they want to live. Maybe Colorado, I don't know. That was an interesting set of hearings. It actually ended with Governor Spellman rejecting everything, and it cost him his election, but he was a Republican, and I have a lot of respect for him. Adam Smith defined profit, and I don't know if I said this before, as what you get after you pay all your expenses. The trouble is the coal industry does not pay all the expenses. It wants to dump it on other people. Last week I sat down, I had lunch with an engineer, a geoengineer from Powder River. I said, hey, we're looking at this coal stuff. He says, no problem with the coal powder stuff. It's just sort of like, I went to Point Roberts yesterday, and I did print this map. I showed the prevailing wind based upon where the things were blowing. I talked to people in here. They were cleaning dole dust off their tables. And so it was a business expense to them. Thank you. Listen carefully. Good luck to all of us.
We're going to go a little bit out of order now. We're going to have two 96s, and then on deck 97 and 98. So 96 first. Bring the microphone down a little bit.
Hi, my name's Milan Chavez Haley, and I'm 11 years old, and I would like to talk about how coal affects us. It pollutes air and affects animals and our medical health. I represent the children of Bellingham and Whatcom County, and please ask every children if you see of their opinions. Coal affects us. Thank you. On deck 97, 98.
Joel Ridley, son of Snap, Chaklomisin, Chishaspokolixin. My name is Joel Ridley. I'm a survivor of the Great Flood, and from Lumley I am. I'm here today to oppose this coal terminal export they want to put on my sacred lands. We need to look at it like this. We wouldn't go and dig up the Vatican and put a coal terminal right there. That's sacred lands to Catholics. We wouldn't go to Israel and dig up the sacred walls of Jericho and put a coal terminal there. Or so on and so forth. Go to sacred sites that have to do with Buddhism or Islam. No way is that even an option. So it hurts my heart and it tears my people down to know that this is even an option. Why is this even an option? Why is this open for discussion? It should not be. So my people, we say no. This is not negotiable. This is not going to happen. I represent my people in a good way. I'm an Indian activist at the beginning of my journey. And I appreciate this opportunity to come here and express my thoughts and my feelings on what this will do. In 1887, the Dawes Act happened. And over 90% of my people had died due to biochemical warfare. This is going to take a chunk of our culture, of our identity. You apologize for the boarding schools. Don't contradict it by taking another chunk of our identity. Out there at Cherry Point, I can trace my ancestry back to 165 generations. I worked for the Semyon Project for 6 months. I recovered the remains of my ancestors. Don't make me do that again. Because if I get called for that, I will. And it'll hurt my people even more. Hi, Scott, for listening.
97, 98, and 99. 97, you're at the microphone. Please state your name for the record. Thank you.
My name is Terry Hill. I am not from Bellingham. I am from Spokane, Washington. I'm here today to stand in solidarity with the people here in Bellingham, and I hope that you've listened to their concerns, and I hope that you will investigate their concerns. That's my first reason for being here. My second reason is a little more selfish. Every coal train that comes here to Bellingham, if this coal port is built, will come through Spokane. And I will see you in Spokane, and I will express my concerns to you there. Thank you.
99 and 100. 98, you're at the microphone. 99 and 100, you're at the desk. Please state your name for the record.
Hello, I'm Donna Starr, and I live in Blaine, Washington. I've been a public school teacher for 42 years. In 93, I got my master's degree in cognitive neurology and how it pertains to education. I've studied a lot of fetal brain information, and I am very, very concerned about the toxicology in the developing fetus. And I don't think that there's been enough research. I realize that your purview is our county, but nationally, I don't think that people are paying attention, because who's going to pay for a study in toxic neurology when major corporations stand to benefit by ignoring it? And in the 42 years that I've been a teacher, and any other school teacher can recognize this as a fact, we have had higher instances of autism, bipolarism, we have had schizophrenia in children, we have had behavioral control problems, ADD, ADHD, and the only thing that people can come up with is that something is wrong in our environmental system. And we've heard about people worrying about organic foods, we know about air, we know about people tell us that the placenta will clean up everything, but we don't know that that's a fact, and we know that coal makes heavy metals. We don't know what that's going to mean cumulatively. Somebody else spoke about the accumulation of the cumulative effect of the Intelco, the petroleum, the coal, the insecticides. We can add that. We can add the potassium sulfates in our soap suds. We don't know. And the fact is that we better find out, because something is happening to the neurology of our kids in this country, and nobody seems to give a rip, and I hope you do.
99 and then 100. I find you at the microphone. Please state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Lindsay McDonald. I've lived in Bellingham for 26 years. I work at Seaholm High School. My concerns encompass all the things that have been raised today by speakers with such a wide range of issues and problems that we feel this is just wrong in every way, the coal port. But I'd like to raise two things I'd like the scoping to cover that I don't think have been mentioned. One is that Puget Sound is currently threatened by urbanization and runoff from non-site points all to our beautiful, precious body of water. Puget Sound has a narrow opening. It doesn't flush very well. When you scope this, please add the impacts of coal dust to the cumulative effect of all the other pollutants that are threatening marine life in Puget Sound. Don't take it as a single effect that you're researching. The other one I'm concerned about is the effect of sonar noise pollution underwater on our orca population, which is already threatened. Orcas need to be able to find their way underwater using sound, both to hunt and to communicate with each other and to locate their position. It's already being disturbed by an excessive amount of engine noise. I don't know quite where the Navy's at with their experiments using bombs, but if we add 900 more ships a year to our northern Puget Sound environment, I'm really concerned about the impact on the orcas, again, since their food sources are also being impacted. So I please ask you to investigate cumulatively, along with all the other sonar disruptors in the orca environment, what that impact will be on our orca population. And finally, I want to just ask why anyone would trust Goldman Sachs to do anything positive for any community after watching the way they brought down the whole global financial system with their lies and their greed. Thank you very much.
Number 100, please state your name for the record.
Marie Hitchman, Bellingham. I was just going to come today and take notes on what people were focusing on, but I think the result of my tabulation, I wasn't going to talk, but the result of my tabulation was that everything's connected to everything else. I've been on this Cherry Point issue since about the year 2000. We came to Bellingham in 1996. I know about all the other schemes that have been proposed out there. I served on the committee to implement the Shoreline Management Act that was passed in 1971 for the city of Bellingham. I was recently on the committee, the DNR committee, to write up the management proposal for Cherry Point. I just want to briefly mention a couple of things that have come to mind that I don't think have been dealt with today. The first one is that under the Shoreline Management Act that the people passed in 1971, one of the stipulations was to increase public access. There was also legal passage of implications for the public trust doctrine that was declared back in, I think, 1512 under the British common law, that the water, the air belongs to the people. We need to focus on that a little bit more in our discussion of this issue. Personally, I'm an old-time naturalist. I'm a botanist, so I've been on the ground out there. I've walked the beach many times from Point Whitehorn. Oh dear. Okay. The other one quickly was the political accountability that may be something that this group can deal with, which is the question of, if this happens, should it not be under a port authority that has accountability to the people rather than a private corporation that is only accountable to its shareholders? Thank you. I'll
We have about 10 minutes until we have to close out this room. So I just spoke with our listeners here. If there's anyone who did not get a card that would like a chance to make a 2-minute statement, please come up now and fill out the card, and we'll take as many as we can until we have to close the room at 3 o'clock. Any takers? You guys want out? Oh, we have one.
I've never worked for the Inquirer. I don't think anybody else here has. Keep that in mind.
Please, you know the drill.
I'm Sal Adams, Bellingham. My business concerns businesses that are already here in Whatcom County and primarily focused on the water, which I make my living at. There's been lots of mention about economic issues with this terminal, and I would hope that you would focus on all of our small businesses here that will be impacted by this terminal. And hopefully Goldman Sachs' profits don't trump all of us who have lived here all our lives and need to make a living. Thank you.
Ms. Roger, you're not a number tonight. I'm not a number. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Holly Roger, and I work at a private school, but I also work for a local nonprofit organization called Wild Whatcom. And I do family programs for children, for families all over Whatcom County. And two of the places that we explore every year are Marine Park and Boulevard Park. And what we don't know as families is how the impact of those places being cut off for our social and environmental health concerns me greatly. Did you know we had sand dollars at Marine Park? Raise your hand if you do. That's right. My other concern is coal dust on our drinking water. Would that be part of the assessment? I would love to see how that works. Thank you.
Ms. Harris, please state your name to the microphone for the record.
Wendy Harris, I'm a Bellingham resident, and I'm going to ask that you consider carefully the mitigation that's being proposed with regards to freshwater impacts. There's been a lot of focus on marine impacts, but if you look at the mitigation plan that's been submitted, SSA is only proposing to address aquatic impacts. That leaves a lot of terrestrial impacts that are not being addressed. There's a number of priority species, particularly birds, and a number of priority habitats that won't be addressed. Additionally, they're requesting that they do off-site mitigation, yet they're not citing to and complying with Whatcom County Code with regards to off-site mitigation, which requires that for off-site mitigation to be approved, it has to enhance biological function and provide greater likelihood of success. I don't see any of that being done here. Additionally, they don't have on paper enough mitigation points to even go forward with the project. Even with the new property that they purchased for off-site, they're still 30 credits short, which means that they're proposing either an in lieu of fee program or the lumpy mitigation bank, one program of which doesn't exist, the other of which the people who run the program have come out opposed to this project. They're also talking about out-of-kind trades, which are not preferred because they don't capture the function and the value of all lost ecological functions. So I'd like more emphasis on habitat, more emphasis on bird species, more emphasis on habitat connectivity for the 550 acres of wetlands that are going to be impacted. All of this has to be done on a landscape-based analysis, and what we're seeing now is clearly inadequate. Thank you.
Ms. McLeod.
David McLeod. I did speak earlier in the day, but I only took 1 minute at that time, trying to leave room for other folks. I am concerned that in the near future, due to the price and availability of crude oil, we will need to be moving more freight by rail rather than by truck. I served in 2008 and 2009 on a city and county appointed Energy Resource Scarcity Peak Oil Task Force. And our report stated, freight transportation will become more costly, likely leading to mode shifts from air and truck to rail and ship. These impacts should be included in the scope of the EIS. How would already crowded railways and shipping lanes due to the coal transport allow this expected modal shift? Thank you.
I pronounce this McGarrett. McGarrett, and I don't think Noland. McGarrett Noland. Please state your name for the record.
McGarrett Noland, Bellingham resident for about 7 years, and San Juan Island resident for about 16 years before that. Hi, first I'd like to say thank you all for listening. I know it's been a lot of information to take in. I did not do my research in time to make an informed comment, so that's why I wasn't going to make one, but after listening to everybody else, I just sort of felt that what I could offer was that when you go into your heads and your hearts to figure out how extrapolated this EIS is going to be, I would offer that you would take the time to really be able to put yourself in the place of everyone and everything that's going to be affected. I myself, I don't have any children of my own, but I am an auntie to a few, and I'm sure that you all have children too, and I'm afraid that not only will this project affect their direct physical health, but I am also afraid it will affect their very belief in us as an example for them, as a body of adults that they look up to. And I feel as though we do not want to be setting the example for our children that it is okay to decimate our land in the long term just for a short-sighted amount of jobs and benefits. And I feel like perhaps that will help you to all make a more informed decision as to the scope of the scoping process if you're able to really connect with what this will mean to not just the present moment but to the future. Thank you.
And our last commenter, Ms. Yu. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Diane Yale. I'm a homeowner in Sudden Valley. Who wants the coal? A few corporations are proposing a project that will significantly impact the people and the environment of 4 states. They may have believed that their plan was justified and would be profitable based on early projections that Asian countries, and particularly China, would continue a large and growing demand for American coal. But the projections were prepared some time ago, and circumstances around the globe have changed. The environmental impact statement needs to quantify specifically what the assumptions of demand were and compare that to current and future economic and climate realities. For example, this year in China, there has been slowed economic growth in all of the industries that use coal for power. Because of the European financial crisis, they've received less demand for products that they manufacture. They have a new 5-year plan, whose policies for the first time harmonize with international pressures. It shifts away from a coal-driven economy toward development and use of low-carbon energy and conservation. It puts a cap on the use of coal. At shipping ports, power plants, and their own coal mines, stockpiles of excess coal inventories have been piling up. Ships that arrive with more coal have been turned away. One Chinese trader said, "The glory days of big coal are behind us." And another said, we stopped importing at the end of May. This is true of other Asian countries as well.
This concludes our discussion today. Thank you so much for your kind and respectful participation and for participating in the scoping process. All of us on behalf of the co-lead agencies, I want to thank all of you for being here and participating today. If you have not spoken today and you have not submitted a written comment, please do so. And thank you again. Drive safe.